The Josiah Henson Park is located in Rockville. It's currently under construction in preparation for a new museum and visitor center that will celebrate the life of the Reverend Josiah Henson. Henson was a former slave who lived and labored on the site of the Riley plantation. He became an abolitionist whose life, among others, inspired Harriet Beecher Stowe to write Uncle Tom's Cabin in 1852. That landmark book helped fuel the anti-slavery sentiment leading up to the Civil War.
We are here at the Josiah Henson Museum and Park. It is mid-November, and we're about 8 months into the construction of the new visitor center, which is behind me, and the restoration of the historic Riley Bolton house, which is behind you.
County Council member Andrew Friedson stopped by for a tour.
How are you? Good to see you again.
Glad to be here.
Welcome to the new Josiah Henson Museum and Park.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. Thanks for welcoming us around this amazing project right here in our community. I grew up close by, and there's a lot of local lore about what this property is and what it means. Tell us what we're going to learn here.
So the local lore that you probably grew up hearing was that this was referred to as Uncle Tom's Cabin. And so one of the first things that we did after acquiring the property over 10 years ago was to bust some myths. And it was to really clarify people where that Uncle Tom's Cabin comes from. And Uncle Tom's Cabin, as you know, was the fictional novel written by Harriet Beecher Stowe. What people don't know is what inspired that story was a narrative written by the Reverend Josiah Henson. His autobiography spawned that creation of the main character Tom in her story. And once people realized and they made the connection, well, wait, Josiah Henson grew up here in Rockville at this property, which was formerly the Riley plantation, then he is tied to Tom, Uncle Tom, so that log structure there that's been on this property for over 100 years must be Uncle Tom's Cabin. That's sort of how that myth was born. What we discovered through our historical research and excavations is that actually that log structure is a log kitchen. It was a working log kitchen here on the plantation, and what we're standing in is the older of the two structures. This was the main family home for the Riley family, or the big house of the plantation. It was built about 1800, 1815. That log structure doesn't get built until 1850.
The Riley Bolton house and the log cabin required extensive restoration. Archaeological finds were discovered along the way, both inside and outside the property.
We've done extensive research on the property and found that there are significant remains from the 19th century still present here that tell us about what life was like during the time of this was used as a plantation. And specifically, we found over 30,000 artifacts, individual artifacts, from drinking glasses and plates that date to about 1800 to sort of the kinds of crocks you would use to store and prepare foods, to smoking pipes, which is very common, and gun flints, as well as over almost 300 features and locations of former outbuildings that we didn't previously know where they were located. And so what's happening right now in the log kitchen is we're repairing the chinking and the logs themselves to bring it back to its former glory. And this structure was built in 1850 and served as the farm's food preparation area, and it has been in continuous use since then, though served many different functions. So through the archaeology, we've been able to look at all of those different uses of this space.
When is this going to be open so the community will be able to learn about them?
So it's going to open late next year in 2020, and when it does, the room that we're standing in is actually going to be filled with modern exhibits. The whole first floor of the historic frame structure is going to be complete with exhibits that will focus on the history of the Riley family, definitely the story of Reverend Henson told in his own words, and you'll be able to see the archaeological excavated artifacts. When visitors come into the space now, we have gutted the 1930s kitchen, removed a small bathroom that was there, but this is the main entrance into the Historic House Museum. When you come in, you will have exhibits that are going to focus on the history of the site, the history of enslavement within the area. This is going to be an exhibit space that focuses on Henson's story, The Escape, will be here. Above the fireplace will be a televised depiction of his escape with his family.
The new visitor center will include a theater, a gift shop, and exhibits as well.
And this is the exciting opportunity not to read about history in a book, but to walk in the footsteps of the historical figures that came before us and see the circumstances in which they lived. It's just such an exciting opportunity and a tremendous asset to have you and your team working so hard to make sure that we have this history, not just for now, but for forever.
Well, thank you.
For updates and information, go to this website,